At this time, we will call the regularly scheduled council meeting to order. Ms. Stennett, if you would, please do the invocation. Ms. James, lead us in the pledge, please.
Lord, thank you for the blessings you've bestowed upon the citizens, visitors, and the city of Fort Oglethorpe. We are truly, truly amazed by your glory. Lord, we pray that you place your hand upon us as we, in effect, try to lead, make decisions based on the honor that has been bestowed, that we may use our voice, our thoughts, and our deeds to represent your glory within this city. Lord, be with those who are suffering. Place your hand upon them, Lord. Give them the strength, the courage, and the wisdom to follow your path to glory. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is reading of the minutes of previous council meeting. If members of council have had an opportunity to review these, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Next item on the agenda, communications from the mayor. Although you can't tell it, they say spring is here. I guess Mother Nature's blessed us with some rain, but we were fortunate to have a few weeks without it. So we did get caught up on a little bit of construction that's going on in the city, and hopefully we'll get dried out a little bit more. We've got quite a few projects that needs to be completed if Mother Nature will let us. Next item on the agenda is zoning matters. We have none. Next item on the agenda is ordinances. Ordinance number 1, third and final reading of ordinance number 2019-05. Mr. Stokes.
Ordinance number 2019-05, rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Goodlet Family Partners, LP, known as number 2 Forest Road, map 003 F047-000, is rezoned to a C2 zoning. Said property is particularly described in the deed attached to as Exhibit A. If any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair the other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. This ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. This will be the third reading on this, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second, sir.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Childs.
Yes.
Mr. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Ms. James.
Yes.
Ms. Stennett.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 2 under ordinances. Third and final reading of ordinance number 2019-06. Mr. Stokes.
Ordinance number 2019-06, rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Wanda A. Harwood and Brenda A. Mathis and known as 1565 Deach Road, map 0013D002, is rezoned to a PM zoning. Said property is particularly described in the deed attached as Exhibit A. If any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair the other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. Third reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Last call for a second. Rezoning fails for lack of a second. Item number 4 under ordinances, third and final reading, ordinance number 2019-07.
City of Fort Oglethorpe, State of Georgia, ordinance number 2019-07, repeal of existing Chapter 30 courts and adoption of a new Chapter 30 courts. An ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, Chapter 30 courts to provide for certain revisions, to provide for the provisions therein is authorized by state law, to provide for the office of the prosecuting attorney for the City of Fort Oglethorpe, to provide for the office of the public defender for the City of Fort Oglethorpe, to provide for modifications, to provide for severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances or parts thereof, to provide for an adoption effective date, and for all other purposes allowed by law. Whereas the duly elected governing authority of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, is authorized under Article 9, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution of the State of Georgia, the Official Code of Georgia annotated 36-353, and the Charter of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, to adopt reasonable ordinances to protect and improve the public health, safety, welfare, and aesthetics of the citizens of the City of Fort Oglethorpe. And whereas the duly elected governing authority of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, is vested in the City Council composed of a mayor and 5 council members, whereas it is hereby ordained by the governing authority of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, whereas the Code of Ordinance Chapter 30 is hereby amended by repealing it in its entirety and by adopting a new Chapter 30 courts. Mayor, this ordinance has been on file with the clerk's office since its first announcement. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's very lengthy, but basically this is the third announcement on this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. For the record, this has been available in the clerk's office for 6 weeks now, so anyone that had wanted to go over it and review it has had more than ample opportunity. That's why we had it on display in the clerk's office 5 days a week for 6 weeks. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion, sir.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Ms. Stinnett?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 4 under ordinances. First reading for annexation, ordinance number 2019-09. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-09, annexation, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by James Howard Walthour and known as MAP 0013D050 portion and 0013D051897 Dyer Bridge Road is annexed into the City of Fort Oglethorpe. Said property is particularly described in a deed attached as Exhibit A. If any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair the other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 5 under ordinances, first reading for zoning, ordinance number 2019-10. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-10, rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by James Howard Wallflower and known as map 0013D050 portion and 0013D051897 Dyer Bridge Road is hereby rezoned to a planned development mixed-use PM zoning. Said property is particularly described in Exhibit A and the deed attached to same. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. If at any time you need to take a breather and get you a drink, I will certainly understand, sir.
The city clerk, Johnny Robinson's offered to help me.
Here she comes.
I'm just kidding, Johnny. I know you will.
Item number 6, under ordinances, first reading of ordinance number 2019-13. Mr. Stoltz.
13?
11, I'm sorry.
11?
Sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, sir. Ordinance number 2019-11, rezoning bid ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Better Built Homes and known as map 00020020 Enterprise Drive is hereby rezoned to a C1 special exception zoning. Said property is particularly described in a deed attached hereto as Exhibit A. If any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 7, under ordinances, first reading of ordinance number 2019-12. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance 2019-12, rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Bernard H. Brown and known as map 0019A002, a portion thereof, 540 Highway 41, is hereby rezoned to a C1 special exception zoning. Why zoning? Said property is particularly described in the deed attached as Exhibit A attached hereto to this ordinance. If any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 8, under ordinances, annexation, ordinance number 2019-13. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-13, annexation, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Emerson Russell and known as map 0010D00100A Mack Smith Road is annexed into the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Said property is particularly described in the deed attached as Exhibit A attached to this ordinance. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance, unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Well, I know this is the one you've been waiting on. Item number 9, under ordinances, first reading for zoning, ordinance number 2019-14.
Ordinance number 2019-14, rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Emerson Russell and known as MAP 0010D00100A, Max Smith Road, is hereby rezoned to a I-1 zoning. Said property is particularly described as follows in the deed attached as Exhibit A. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, Judge, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Next item on the agenda is resolutions. We have none. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We have none. Next item on the agenda is reading of the city clerk of any communications. We have none. Next item on the agenda is new business. Item number 1 under new business, proposed approval task order 2019-05 for engineering services for Highway 41 Phase 2. Mr. Parker.
Mr. Mayor, this request is for task order 2019-05 for CTI engineers to do the record drawings for the sanitary sewer project on Highway 41 Phase 2 and 2B. This item is provided for in the contract with the contractor and with Mays Construction, but we can save $1,000 by letting CTI do it. They have all the documentation, and we'll probably get a better, more accurate record drawing. Save a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Have a motion to approve.
Make a motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 2 under new business, proposed approval Highway 41 sewer project Phase 2 and 2B change order number 2. Mr. Parker.
Okay, this is the change order for the final change order on this sewer project to close the project out. It is completed. This change order it's the final adjustments of all quantities, and it is a reduction in the contract price by $24,565.23. That the task order for CTI to do the record drawings is one of the deductions in this, but there are also a lot of other items that we removed from the project, which resulted in the deduction.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 3 under new business, proposed approval for motor repair. Mr. Parker.
Okay, this is a request to pay for North Georgia Service Estimate 11,897, the amount of $17,500 for one of the motors at Hand Drive Pump Station. It's a 90 horse pump motor that on March the 16th, motor number 1 experienced a major failure, resulting in a total rebuild of the pump and motor. Requesting approval, authorization to pay this invoice of $17,500.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 4 under new business, proposed approval for police vehicle equipment. Chief Helton.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Police Department would like to recommend the purchase of police equipment for the 2 Chargers that you purchased a couple months ago. They should be coming in about 2 to 3 weeks. This equipment that's listed for these two vehicles, these Dodge Chargers, will include the light packages, the light bars, the controller boxes, a variety of other things that go on the cars that are required. Frankly, the space, the barrier between the prisoners and the officers, everything else that loads onto the cars. As required by city policy and state law, we went out to bid for these items. We had 5 bidders. The lowest and most responsive bidder was Mountain View Ford, and the price total was $14,404. That's $7,202 per car. And that will come out of SPLOST funds.
Thank you, Chief Help. I have a motion to approve.
Motion, sir.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 5 under new business, proposed approval to request no left turn going eastbound on State Route 146, which is Cloud Springs Road onto West Side Drive. Ms. Simpkins.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This item is a request to send a letter to GDOT from the Mayor and City Council requesting a no left turn going eastbound on State Route 146, Cloud Springs Road onto West Side Drive. Currently, there are no traffic control devices at this intersection, and there's also no turn lane. So this causes traffic to back up unnecessarily on Cloud Springs Road. And ultimately, the widening of Cloud Springs Road will take care of this issue, but in the meantime, staff recommends sending a letter to GDOT with a request of installing a no left turn. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What about Westman coming to West Town Country? Is it going to affect it?
No.
No.
This letter only
Eastbound
is
only.
eastbound.
They take it for a shortcut most of the time. Backs up all the way to the light almost.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Next item on the agenda is City Manager's Report. Ms. Simpkins.
Mayor and Council, I have nothing new tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. Next item on the agenda is City Council comments. Mr. Childs.
No comments tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Childs. Mr. Crawford.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Is it not ball season yet?
It is.
I mean, I know it's raining, but
It is.
it's upon us, isn't it?
It is. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Mr. Rogers.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Ms. James.
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Ms. James. Ms. Stinnett.
Yes, sir. It's good to be back this week. Start out with wanting everyone to make sure you pay attention to the 1919 Club for the 6th Cavalry Museum, because we need to support our 6th Cavalry Museum as they are wonderfully supportive of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, especially with the new exhibit that is open with the 6 battles of Curlin. Everyone needs to go see that if you have not already. Just last weekend, there was a celebration that offered a free viewing of Keep Your Powder Dry. I don't know if you guys went to see that or not. It was in 1945. It's a World War II movie, and it is very, very visible, the city of Fort Oglethorpe, the battlefield that was, or not the battlefield, where our troops were on Barnhart Circle. You can tell it is there. You will recognize it. Enjoy that. And it's now available for purchase on DVD. Now page 2. It's very seldom that we receive wonderful letters, complimentary, going over and above for our staff. But I did receive one such letter today. Dear Council Lady Stinnett, I just wanted to let the city know that the guys doing the sewer replacement have been just wonderful through all this weather. They also took wonderful care of our dog, Houdini, that we had buried in the yard where they ended up coming through. I told them where he was buried and what he was in. They took great care at removing him and setting him in a box that I had set out for them to use. They finished that area of my yard, and then they gently placed him back where he was, and also added a post over where he was buried, so we'd know where to replant the plants we had on top of him. Amanda was so happy at the way they took care of him, and she made sure to thank them. They have had a mess to try and work around with all the rain we've had. They are close to having the landscapers come through and start putting grass seed and straw down. They had to take my building down that was in the way because it was on a concrete floor. They will be replacing my building once they're able to do so after the landscapers get done. I just wanted to let someone know that the contractor that the city hired has done a wonderful job and are a great group of people. I felt they have done such a great job with our dog that I fixed them homemade hot chocolate a few days when it was really cold outside. Thank you, and I hope all is well with you, Angel Payne Smith. And how awesome it is to receive such wonderful correspondence talking about the great job that the city does. Now, this month celebrates the U.S. Army launching its K-9 Corps. And why am I bringing that up? Because on April 13th at 9 a.m. at Honor Park, we will be planting the service animal tree, along with the fire department's tree, the police department, the emergency management systems department's tree, the WAC, Purple Heart. All those trees will be planted at Honor Park, 9 a.m. on April 3rd. So I hope all of you will take this opportunity to be part of that great event. And now, in conclusion, I'd like for everyone to wish Melvin Turner a happy 103rd birthday. He's a World War II veteran, and he will turn 103 on Thursday, March the 28th. That's right. He was here in 1935 in E Troop. His horse's name? Shorty. And he's been attending 6 cavalry events for the 15 years that Director McKeever's been here. He mustered out in 1935, thought he was out of it, went to have a family, and then lo and behold, was drafted for World War II. So please everyone, wish Mr. Melvin Turner a happy 103rd and thank him for his wonderful service. Mayor, Council, that is all.
Thank you, Ms. Denton. Next item on the agenda, citizens' petitions and requests. Ms. Redding.
Mayor, she called earlier. She will not be present tonight.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Simpkins. Next item on the agenda is executive session. We do not have anything for executive session tonight. Final item on the agenda is adjournment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned.